My boss thought he controlled me. I was recording everything. I didn't realize I was being manipulated at first. That's the scary part. If he had been openly cruel, aggressive, or obvious about it, I probably would have quit within a week. But he wasn't. He was smart, calculated, the kind of boss who smiles while slowly dismantling your confidence piece by piece, until you don't even recognize yourself anymore. I'm 27 years old, and at the time this happened, I had just landed what I thought was my dream job. A mid-sized tech company based in Seattle. Good salary, clean office, free coffee, the whole corporate package. After months of job searching, I finally felt like my life was getting back on track. I was wrong. His name was Daniel Carter. Regional operations manager, mid-40s, always perfectly dressed, calm voice, the kind of person who never raised his tone, but somehow made everyone in the room feel small. On my first day, he shook my hand, looked me straight in the eye, and said, "We only keep the best here." At the time, I thought it was motivating. Looking back, that was the first warning. The first few weeks were normal. Training sessions, team introductions, learning systems. Everyone seemed tense, friendly on the surface, but guarded, like they were all holding something back. I noticed it, but I ignored it. New job nerves, I told myself. Then the one-on-one started. Daniel scheduled weekly private meetings with each employee. At first, I thought it was great. A boss who actually cared about performance and growth. But those meetings quickly turned into something else. During my second one-on-one, he said something strange. He leaned back in his chair, folded his hands, and said, "I've been getting some feedback about you." That caught me off guard. I had barely been there 2 weeks. I asked, "What kind of feedback?" He paused, just long enough to make it uncomfortable. Then said, "Some people feel you're not fully committed." I felt my stomach drop. I had been working late almost every day, trying to prove myself, trying to do everything right. I said, "I'm not sure I understand." "I've been." He cut me off. "I'm just telling you what I'm hearing." That phrase, I heard it again and again over the next few months. "I'm just telling you what I'm hearing." It was always vague, never specific, never something I could actually respond to. Just enough to make me doubt myself. And it worked. I started overthinking everything. Every email, every conversation, every small mistake felt like confirmation that maybe I wasn't good enough. Then came the comparisons. Daniel would casually bring up other employees. Sarah handled a similar task much more efficiently. Jake doesn't seem to struggle with this. Emily shows more initiative. At first, I thought he was encouraging improvement. But over time, I realized something. He was saying the same things to everyone. Just with different names. I didn't figure that out on my own. Someone told me. Her name was Melissa. She had been at the company for 3 years. Smart, quiet, kept to herself. One evening, we both stayed late. The office was almost empty. That's when she said something that changed everything. She looked at me and asked, "Has he started doing the feedback thing with you yet?" I paused. "What do you mean?" She gave a small, tired laugh. "The vague criticism, the comparisons, making you feel like everyone else is doing better than you." I just stared at her. She nodded. "Yeah, he does that to everyone." That was the first crack in the illusion. Over the next few days, I started paying attention. Really paying attention. I noticed how people avoided eye contact during meetings. How no one spoke unless they had to. How even small decisions seemed to stress everyone out. Then I started asking around. Carefully, casually, and what I found was worse than I expected. Everyone had a story. One employee said Daniel told her she was lucky to still have a job after a minor mistake. Another said he hinted that layoffs were coming, but never confirmed anything. Someone else said he'd praise them in public, then tear them apart in private. It was a pattern, a system. Keep everyone insecure, keep everyone competing, keep everyone isolated, because if everyone thinks they're the problem, no one questions the system. That's when I realized something important. This wasn't bad management. This was manipulation. And the worst part, it was working. People were exhausted, burnt out, constantly anxious. But no one left, because Daniel made sure of that too. Every time someone thought about quitting, he'd do something unexpected. A compliment, a small bonus, a promise of promotion, just enough hope to keep them from walking away. It was like a cycle. Break them down, build them up, break them again. And somehow, I got caught in it too. For months, I tried to play his game. Work harder, do better, prove myself. But no matter what I did, it was never enough. And then, everything changed. It happened during a team meeting. Daniel called me out in front of everyone. He said, "Some people here still don't understand the level of accountability we expect." Then he looked directly at me. No names, but everyone knew. My chest tightened. My hands started shaking. I had stayed late every night that week. Skipped meals, skipped sleep, and somehow, I was still the example of failure. That was the moment something inside me snapped. Not loudly, Not dramatically, just quietly. I stopped trying to prove myself. And I started watching him instead. Really watching. Because once you see manipulation for what it is, you can't unsee it. I noticed how he phrased things carefully. How he avoided leaving written evidence. How most of his feedback happened verbally. Behind closed doors. No records. No proof. Just words. That's when the idea came to me. If everything he does is verbal, then all I need is a way to capture it. At first, I hesitated. It felt risky, maybe even wrong. But then I thought about something Melissa said. He's been doing this for years. People have complained before. Nothing ever happens, because there was no proof. And suddenly, I knew exactly what I needed to do. The next morning, I walked into the office with my phone in my pocket. And for the first time since I started working there, I wasn't nervous. I was ready, because my boss thought he controlled everything. But he didn't realize I had just started recording. And this time, he was the one being watched. The first time I recorded him, nothing happened. No dramatic confession. No obvious wrongdoing. Just a normal one-on-one meeting. If anything, it almost made me feel stupid. Paranoid. Like maybe I had overreacted. Daniel sat across from me, calm as ever, reviewing reports like nothing was wrong. He even smiled. "You've been improving," he said. That threw me off. Improving, after weeks of constant criticism. For a moment, I thought maybe things were finally turning around. Maybe I didn't need to do this. Maybe I was wrong about him. Then he leaned forward slightly, lowered his voice, and said, "But some people still feel you lack consistency." There it was again, that sentence, that same vague, impossible to defend criticism. I kept my face neutral. But inside, something clicked. This wasn't feedback. This was control. I left the meeting, went straight to my car, and played the recording back. Hearing it again, objectively, it sounded different, colder, more calculated. He never accused me of anything specific. Never gave me anything concrete to fix. Just planted doubt, and suddenly I understood something. If someone listened to this without context, they might think he was being reasonable, professional, even. That's what made it dangerous. Because manipulation like this doesn't sound like abuse. It sounds like leadership. That's when I realized one recording wouldn't be enough. I needed a pattern, so I kept going. Week after week, I recorded everything. One-on-ones, team meetings, even casual conversations. At first, it was exhausting. Constantly remembering to hit record. Making sure my phone battery didn't die. Making sure no one noticed. But slowly, I started building something, a timeline, and the deeper I went, the worse it got. Because Daniel didn't just manipulate me. He manipulated everyone. I started comparing recordings, what he told me, versus what he told others. And the contradictions were unbelievable. One day, he told me, "You need to be more independent. I can't hold your hand." That same afternoon, I overheard him telling another employee, "You need to communicate more. I can't guess what you're doing." Opposite criticisms. Same day, different people. Then it escalated. In one recording, he hinted to Jake that layoffs were coming. Said things like, "Upper management isn't happy. Cuts might be necessary." Jake panicked. Started working late every night. Skipped weekends. 2 days later, Daniel told Sarah the exact opposite. "Things are stable. No need to worry about layoffs." I replayed both recordings side by side. Same voice. Same tone. Completely different realities. That's when it hit me. He wasn't just manipulating individuals. He was controlling the entire office through fear. Different people. Different narratives. No one had the full picture. Until now, I started organizing everything. Dates, names, topics. It felt less like a job, and more like building a case. But I couldn't do it alone. So I made a decision. I told Melissa. At first, she didn't believe me. Not because she trusted Daniel, but because she had stopped trusting anything. When I told her I had recordings, her expression changed. "Let me hear it," she said. So I did. I played her one of the meetings. Then another. Then another. She didn't say anything for a long time. Just sat there, listening, processing. Then she whispered, "Oh my God." That was the moment everything shifted. Because now, it wasn't just in my head. Someone else heard it too. And once you hear it, you can't ignore it anymore. Over the next week, we started working together. Carefully, quietly, we compared notes, shared experiences, and something terrifying became clear. Daniel wasn't just manipulating people emotionally. He was using it strategically. He knew exactly who to pressure, who to isolate, who to reward. It was like watching someone play chess with real people. Then Melissa told me something that made my stomach drop. "There used to be more of us." I frowned. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, then said, "People who tried to speak up before." I felt a chill run down my spine. "What happened to them?" She looked down. "They're not here anymore." That night, I couldn't sleep. Because suddenly, This wasn't just about a toxic boss. This was bigger, much bigger. The next day, something happened that confirmed it. Daniel called me into his office unexpectedly. No scheduled meeting, no warning. As soon as I sat down, I felt it. Something was off. He wasn't smiling. He leaned forward, hands clasped together, and said, "You've been talking to people." My heart started pounding. I kept my voice steady. "About what?" He held my gaze. "Too long. Be careful," he said. That was it. No explanation, no accusation, just a warning. But the message was clear. He knew something. Maybe not everything, but enough. As I walked out of his office, one thought kept repeating in my head. This just became dangerous. Because if he realized what I was doing, I wouldn't just lose my job. I'd lose everything. But at the same time, I had already come too far to stop. Because now, it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about everyone he had manipulated. Everyone he had broken down. Everyone who thought they were the problem. And for the first time, we had proof. Real proof. The kind that could destroy him. The kind that could bring everything down. But we weren't ready yet. Because if we made one mistake, he would bury it, just like he buried everything else. So we waited. We kept recording, kept collecting, kept pretending everything was normal. While behind the scenes, we were building something that could end him. And he had no idea how close he was to losing everything. After that meeting, after Daniel looked me in the eye and said, "Be careful," everything changed. Up until that point, it felt like we were in control. Like we were quietly building something behind the scenes. Collecting evidence, connecting the dots. But now, it felt like he was watching. Not directly, not obviously, but enough to make every step feel risky. I told Melissa what happened as soon as I got the chance. We were sitting in her car again, parked far from the office. That had become our safe place. "He knows something," I said. She didn't even look surprised. She just nodded slowly and said, "Yeah, I think he does." That response made my chest tighten. "What do you mean?" I asked. She hesitated, like she was deciding whether or not to tell me something. Then she said, "He did this before." I stared at her. "What do you mean, before?" She took a deep breath. "A couple years ago, there was someone else." That sentence hit differently, because suddenly, this wasn't just a pattern. It was a cycle. He was trying to report Daniel, she continued. Not just for manipulation, for something bigger. My stomach dropped. Bigger how? She looked around, like even saying it out loud felt dangerous. Financial stuff. That word lingered in the air. Financial. That wasn't just toxic leadership. That was serious. What happened to him? I asked. Melissa's voice got quieter. He got fired. Just like that. She shook her head. No. First they built a case against him. A cold feeling spread through my body. What kind of case? She looked straight at me. Performance issues. Policy violations. Unprofessional behavior. The exact same phrases Daniel used on everyone. Only this time, they weren't just words. They were weapons. And the worst part, she added, what? They had documentation. That's when it hit me. Daniel didn't just manipulate people verbally. He created a paper trail. A fake one. Enough to justify anything. Firing. Discrediting. Silencing. And suddenly, I understood the real danger. If he even suspected what we were doing, he wouldn't confront us directly. He'd destroy us quietly, and no one would question it. That night, I went home and replayed every recording I had. But this time, I wasn't just listening for manipulation. I was listening for something else. Something bigger. Something illegal. And then, I found it. It was subtle, almost easy to miss. A meeting between Daniel and one of the senior managers. They were discussing budgets, numbers, reports. At one point, the manager said, "These numbers don't match the submitted report." Daniel didn't panic, didn't hesitate. He just said calmly, "Adjust it. We don't need corporate asking questions." Silence. Then the manager asked, "What if they audit us?" Daniel chuckled. "They won't." I paused the recording, played it again, and again. That wasn't manipulation. That was intent. That was someone knowingly altering financial data. And suddenly, this wasn't just about a toxic boss anymore. This was about fraud. The next day, I showed it to Melissa. She didn't speak for a full minute after hearing it. Then she said, "We're in way deeper than I thought." Yeah, we were. And that's when we made a decision. We needed more people, not just for support, but for protection. Because if it was just the two of us, we were easy targets. But if more people knew, if more people had copies, then it became harder to silence. So we started carefully reaching out. One person at a time. People we trusted. People who had complained before. People who had nothing left to lose. The first was Jake. He was hesitant, nervous, kept asking, "Is this a trap?" And honestly, I didn't blame him. But when we played him the recordings, his entire expression changed. I knew it. He whispered. That same reaction. We saw it again and again. With Sarah, with Kevin, with 2 others. Each time, it was the same pattern. Shock, validation, anger. Because for the first time, they weren't crazy. They weren't underperforming. They weren't the problem. Daniel was. Within a week, there were 6 of us. 6 people, all recording, all collecting, all building something bigger. We created backups, multiple copies, stored in different places, just in case. Because at this point, we knew, this was war. But Daniel, he wasn't sitting still either. Things in the office started changing. More surveillance, more random check-ins, more pressure. He started scheduling surprise meetings, calling people out more aggressively. It felt like he was tightening control, like he knew something was slipping. Then one day, he made his move. It was during a team meeting. Everything seemed normal at first, until he said, "We've identified some internal issues." The room went silent. My heart started pounding. He continued, "Confidential information is being mishandled." I felt my throat go dry. Then he added, "And we will be conducting internal reviews." Internal reviews. That meant one thing. He was hunting. And suddenly, every recording in my pocket felt heavier. Because if he found even one, it was over. Not just for me, for all of us. After the meeting, no one spoke. No eye contact. No whispers. Just tension. That night, our group met again. "This is bad," Jake said immediately. "They're going to start checking everything," Sarah added. Melissa looked at me. "What do we do?" For the first time, I didn't have an answer. Because this wasn't just risky anymore. This was dangerous. One mistake, one wrong move, and we'd all be gone. But at the same time, we had something bigger than fear now. We had proof, real proof, of manipulation, of psychological control, and now, of financial misconduct, enough to destroy him, enough to bring everything down. But only if we played it right. Because Daniel Carter wasn't just a bad boss. He was smart, and now, he was actively looking for us. Which meant, the next move had to be perfect, because if it wasn't, we wouldn't get a second chance. After Daniel announced the internal reviews, the entire office changed overnight. It wasn't just tense anymore. It was silent. People stopped talking unless absolutely necessary. Even casual conversations felt risky. You could feel it in the air. Fear. And the worst part, no one knew who Daniel suspected. Which meant, he could be watching anyone. Including me, including all of us. Our group stopped meeting openly. No more sitting together. No more obvious interactions. Everything moved underground. We communicated through burner emails. Met in different locations. Kept conversations short. It felt insane. Like we were part of something way bigger than just a workplace issue. But the recordings didn't stop. If anything, we became more careful, more focused. Because now, we knew time was running out. And then, the closest call happened. It was a random Tuesday. Daniel called me into his office again. And scheduled. That alone was enough to make my heart race. But this time, something felt different. As soon as I walked in, I noticed it. His laptop was closed. No papers. No files. He wasn't here to talk about work. "Close the door," he said. That sentence alone made my pulse spike. I did it, slowly, and then I sat down. I had already started recording. Like always. But for the first time, I wasn't sure if that was a good idea. He leaned back in his chair, studying me, not speaking, just watching. The silence stretched, long enough to become uncomfortable. Then he said, "You've been under a lot of pressure lately." I nodded, carefully. "I guess so," I replied. He tilted his head slightly. "You seem distracted." Every word felt like a test. "I've just been focusing on my work," I said. He smiled, but it didn't feel friendly. "You know," he said slowly, "people who get distracted sometimes make mistakes." My grip tightened under the table. Mistakes. Was that a warning, or an accusation? Then he leaned forward, lowered his voice, "And mistakes have consequences." That was it. That was the moment I knew. He wasn't guessing anymore. He suspected something. Maybe not everything, but enough. I forced myself to stay calm. "I understand," I said. He held my gaze for a few seconds longer. Then suddenly, he smiled again. "Good," he said. And just like that, the meeting ended. No details, no explanation, just a threat, disguised as advice. I walked out of his office, trying to keep my pace steady. But the second I got to the restroom, my hands started shaking. That was too close. Way too close. That night, we met again. Different location, different time. Everyone looked tense. I told them everything. Jake ran a hand through his hair. "He knows," he said. Melissa shook her head. "Not fully. If he did, we'd already be gone." She was right, but that didn't make it better. Because now we were in the worst possible position. He suspected something, and we had no idea how much. That's when Kevin spoke up. "We need to move faster." Everyone looked at him. "What do you mean?" Sarah asked. "I mean we can't keep collecting forever," he said. "We already have enough. manipulation, threats, financial stuff, it's all there. He wasn't wrong. We did have enough. But acting too soon could destroy everything. We need a plan, Melissa said. A real one. That's when we started discussing options. Our, corporate, legal, even going public. Each one had risks. HR could bury it. Corporate might ignore it. Legal would take time. Going public was dangerous, because if we failed, there was no coming back. And then, everything fell apart. 2 days later, Kevin didn't show up to work. At first, we thought he was sick. Then we got the email. Kevin has been terminated due to violations of company policy. Just like that. No warning. No explanation. Gone. My chest tightened. This was exactly what Melissa warned about. Build a case. Then eliminate the threat. But it got worse. An hour later, Daniel called for another team meeting. We all sat there, silent, waiting. Then he said it. Confidential information has been leaked. My heart dropped. He continued. We have identified the source. The room felt like it shrank. Then he looked around, slowly, and said, let this be a lesson. That was it. No name, no details. But the message was clear. Someone had been caught, or at least, someone had been blamed. That night, we met again. But this time, something felt off. There were only 5 of us now. And for the first time, no one was speaking. Then Jake said it. What if it was him? Silence. No one wanted to say it out loud. But we were all thinking the same thing. What if Kevin didn't just get caught? What if he talked? What if he told Daniel everything? The recordings, the group, the plan. Suddenly, trust wasn't guaranteed anymore. And that was the most dangerous part. Because without trust, everything we built falls apart. Melissa finally spoke. We need to assume the worst. I nodded. Which means we move now. No more waiting. No more collecting. It was time. Because if we didn't act first, Daniel would. And if that happened, we wouldn't just lose our jobs. We'd lose everything. So that night, we made the decision. We were going to expose him. Everything. The recordings, the manipulation, the financial fraud, all of it, at once. No holding back. Because this wasn't just about surviving anymore. This was about ending it. For good. But as I went home that night, one thought wouldn't leave my mind. If Kevin really did betray us, then Daniel already knew, which meant, we might already be too late. That night, none of us slept, because once we made that decision, there was no going back. Either we ended Daniel's control, or he ended us. There was no middle ground anymore. We met early the next morning. Different location, phones off, laptops open. This wasn't a discussion anymore. This was execution. Melissa laid it out first. We don't go to HR. No one argued, because we all knew why. HR wasn't there to protect us. It was there to protect the company. And Daniel, he was the company. Going to HR would just give him time. Time to spin the narrative. Time to destroy us. So we aimed higher. Corporate, not local management, not internal channels. We were going straight to the top. But even that wasn't enough. Because if this got buried, if someone up there decided it wasn't worth the trouble, everything would disappear. So we created a second plan. A backup. If corporate ignored us, we go public. Everything. Recordings, documents, timeline, all of it, released at once. No warning, no filter. Because if there's one thing companies fear more than lawsuits, it's exposure. We spent hours organizing everything. Every recording labeled, every conversation timestamped, every inconsistency documented. We built a full report. Not emotional, not angry, just facts. Cold, clear, undeniable. And at the center of it all, Daniel, his voice, his words, his system. Then we added the financial recordings. That was the real weight. Because manipulation might get ignored. But fraud destroys careers. By noon, it was ready. All that was left was to send it. And that's when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me not to. So I answered. Hello. Silence. Then a voice. Hey, it's me. My stomach dropped. Kevin. I stood up immediately. Where are you? I asked. I can't talk long, he said quickly. Something in his voice felt off. Panicked. I didn't betray you, he said. I froze. I know that's what you think, but I didn't. Then what happened? I asked. There was a pause. Then he said something that changed everything. He set me up. My chest tightened. How? He called me in. Just like he did with you. My mind flashed back to that meeting. The silence. The pressure. He started asking questions, Kevin continued. About conversations. About people. About trust. A trap. And then, I asked. I slipped, he said quietly. My heart sank. I didn't tell him everything, but I said enough. Enough. That word echoed in my head. They already had documentation ready, he added. Emails. Reports. Things I didn't even remember doing. Fabricated. Just like before. They fired me on the spot, he said. And now, I asked. There was a long pause. Then he said, "You need to move, now." My grip tightened on the phone. "He knows it's not just me," Kevin continued. "He doesn't have proof yet, but he's close. Close. Too close." "Thank you," I said quietly. The call ended. I stood there for a second, processing everything. Then I turned back to the group. "We send it now. No more waiting. No more planning. Right now. Because if we didn't, we wouldn't get another chance." Melissa nodded. "Do it." I took a deep breath. Opened the email. Attached everything. Every file. Every recording. Every piece of evidence. Addressed to corporate leadership, legal department, external compliance. And one more thing. A scheduled release. If anything happened to us, everything goes public. Automatically. I hovered over the send button. This was it. Months of stress, fear, planning, all coming down to one moment. Then I clicked it. Sent. The next 24 hours were silent. No calls. No emails. No meetings. Nothing. It was the quietest the office had ever been. Too quiet. Like something was building. Then, it happened. At exactly 10:17 a.m. the next day, Daniel was called into a meeting. Not by us. By corporate. 2 people flew in overnight. No announcement. No warning. Just arrived. And took him into a closed room. The entire office felt it. No one said anything, but everyone knew. Hours passed. The door stayed closed. Then finally, it opened. Daniel walked out, and for the first time since I met him, he didn't look in control. His face was pale, tight, his usual calm, gone. He walked straight past everyone. Didn't say a word, grabbed his things, and left. Just like that. No speech, no explanation, nothing. And he never came back. The following weeks were chaos. Audits, investigations, interviews, everything we submitted was confirmed. Not just the manipulation, but the financial misconduct too. Reports had been altered, numbers adjusted, data hidden. And Daniel, he didn't just lose his job. He lost everything. Reputation, career, future. Because once corporate got involved, there was no protecting him anymore. As for us, it wasn't instant victory. There were still consequences, stress, uncertainty. But something changed. The environment, the fear was gone. People started talking again, smiling again, being normal again. Melissa stayed, got promoted. Jake transferred to another team. And me, I left, not because I lost, but because I didn't want to stay in a place where I had to fight just to be treated like a human. Before I left, I sat in my car one last time, the same place where all of this started, and I thought about everything. How close we came to losing. How easily it could have gone the other way. And one thing became clear. People like Daniel only have power when no one is watching, when no one speaks, when everyone thinks they're alone. But the moment someone fights back, the moment there's proof, everything changes. Because control built on fear falls apart the second it's exposed. And in the end, he didn't lose because we were stronger. He lost because we stopped being silent.